Welcome back, everybody. It's Robbie from Miscellaneous Candor. Frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. We are back this week. We hope you're listening to us, following us. We're noticing we're getting a lot more traction, so keep it up. We love you, audience. Follow, listen, subscribe. Hey, Steven, how are you?
Hello, Robbie. Hello, my friends. It is I, Stephen with a PH Kennedy, board certified atheist, at your service.
So
Why are
you're
you
you're
laughing?
you're you're changing your name now?
Well, I just want to clarify for the audience that it's
Okay.
Stephen with a PH. All right,
Mm,
not
okay.
not the generic V. It's a PH.
Okay, so that's what we're doing today. That's fine. That's fine.
That's what we're doing
Stephen
today.
with a PH Kennedy.
Why you gotta hate? Why you gotta hate? Don't
Why?
hate who I am.
Okay,
This is
here we go. I think it's so funny that that's gaslighting, right? Like that's the definition of gaslighting when somebody calls out something that's truth and then you try to undermine it by saying, "Oh, you're a hater, you're this or that."
I have
So,
no idea what you're
even
talking.
though you don't think that that's probably what you're doing or you do know that's what you're doing, everyone else does too. Just because gaslighting is a thing, but I just thought I'd put that
And off with a bang.
out there. Yes. Speaking of bangs, so
Oh, really?
audience, this week, we try to just have conversations outside of what's going on in the outside external world. But today, as I mentioned, sometimes we're going to jump back in and have these discussions. So today we're going to talk about some of the things that have been going on in the past week. And before we start talking about podcasts, I'm going to say, Stephen, I listened to, this week, no new podcast this week, audience, sorry. But I did listen to my wonderful podcast. I love Josh
Mm-hmm.
Brown and Michael Batnick. I don't know if they'll ever
Okay.
listen to this, but I love those guys. They're just awesome. Okay,
So
so
for our audience, this is Robbie's number one favorite podcast. She highly recommends you listen to it.
I
If
love
you
it.
haven't realized by now, if you've been following us, you've been listening to our podcast, you know that's her go-to.
It is. It is my go-to. And I still listen, I still love Scott Galloway and Prof G, that and Pivot, but this one I like it better. It focuses on the markets, centered, they're super smart. Yes, it's my podcast. However, um, Steven,
I
what did
feel
you listen
so.
to?
Well, I feel I want
Huh?
I I'm trying to come out with a thought. You know,
Do you want me to
my
play? Do
my
you want me to play the
my
clip from the podcast of what happened last week?
sure, yeah.
Okay, let me do that. All right, here we go. Hopefully, you guys can hear this.
With Donald Trump, because every conversation everywhere on earth, every subject, every topic inevitably leads to Donald Trump these days. Kind of unavoidable. This was quite a week for Donald Trump. This is something special. So just to back up, the tariffs went on for 13 hours. As the tariffs were going on Tuesday night, they're going to go on Wednesday, 12 a.m. So as they're about to go on, the bond market literally starts to blow up overnight. There's talk that the Fed might have to intervene. And there's talk that maybe Japan is selling treasuries, maybe China, maybe both. Who else is selling? How much higher will the yield go? How disorderly is fixed income about to get? Everyone's completely freaked out. The market had just crashed. The stock market just crashed. So the tariffs go on at midnight, and by 1 o'clock the next day, they're taken off. So it's 13 hours. Now the Chinese tariffs did not come off. So this is the reciprocal tariffs, and they're not off their baseline to 10% versus significantly more severe. But the narrative, Jenny, is now Trump linked. And I mean, that's no one's even other than like Trump people. Everyone kind of agrees like it was some combination, and we'll talk about what you think went on. Some combination of the bond market and commentary from CEOs, and maybe some like gentle nudging from Scott Bessent, and whatever ended up happening, he came out and said, "All right, we're going to lower the reciprocal rate. We're going to add more tariffs to China, but we're going to make 75 deals with 75 countries. I would point out the USMCA was renegotiated over the course of 2 years. So making 75 deals with 75 countries sounds like it could take, I don't know, a century. 75 years. But it's fine. But so that.
Okay, so that is what happened in a
Mm,
nutshell with tariffs. Then there's other things, but
I, s-
tariffs has been a bit news because
I
it
see
affects
where
so
you're
many
going with
people.
this
Go on,
conversation.
Stephen. What?
No, no, sorry, continue.
What am I go where am I going? Where am I going?
I know.
I'm done.
I thought you were saying something. Oh, okay.
No,
Um,
I'm done.
yeah, this is this is comedy. This is just comedy. And all of my GOP friends are all silent all of a sudden. They don't know how to defend him on this, right? All this time they've been, "Oh, this is a strategy he's using. Trust him. This is his strategy. He knows exactly what he's doing." And now we see that he blinked because he had to. He bent over backwards and took it in the ass because he's a fucking idiot. He has no clue what he's doing. He thinks he's smart, but remember, this is a man, number one, and I have to keep on reminding my GOP friends, is that number one, he is not a successful businessman. He has failed at all of his business ventures. He is a successful con man. There's a big difference. The reason why he's successful is because he's a successful con man. And his only success is due to the fact that he was able to manipulate his branding and make trick people into believing that it's a big brand. And he is his only actual business where he's made money. Well, there's two areas. One is from his TV show, which he was fortunate to get, and number two, the fact that he licenses his name out to other businesses. Right. So he's just licensing his name. It's not an actual. He's not a businessman. So he's convinced people that his brand is fantastic, and so he's developed a brand equity with nothing behind that brand. So he's a great con artist, great con artist, but he's not a great businessman. And uh, it's funny, and the other thing is all this nonsense about the art of the deal, blah blah blah, about how he's so good at it. Running a government is far different than running a business. But he wouldn't know that because he's a shitty businessman. He knows nothing. And now all of us get to see it play out because he made these absurd tariffs and now he had to back off of China because we were about to fall off the cliff. The US was about to fall off the cliff and somehow people were able to convince him to make the right decision and back off China for electronics. Now, it's a good start.
Yes, so I was gonna bring that
Number
up. That's the most yes, that's the newest thing. So I feel like that was not someone, that was Tim Cook. That was Tim Cook from Apple because nobody wants a $3,000 iPhone. That's just not happening. It's not happening. Nobody wants a $3,000 iPhone.
yeah.
So and nobody wants a $2,000 iPad, right? So, I knew that that would probably happen. I know, Scott Galloway talked about that on both of his shows, and I mean, it makes sense because it's such a huge part of our market. So, I saw that too, and that just happened literally yesterday. That just happened yesterday. I'm not gonna go into all of the things that you went into. I think it was pretty clear where you stand on Trump and how you feel about President Trump,
Is it clear? I don't
and,
know.
I think it is for our audience. But I think my point is I try to stay focused in on what's happening and what's impacting people. I feel like, yeah, this was crazy. And I know a lot of times people are on the news and saying things like, well, only rich people are a part of the stock market. That's not true. So I mean, so many people have 401ks. 62% of the country or more have 401ks or some sort of money tied into that. And all that has been an up and down um, roller coaster ride the past few days because of all of this back and forth. And there's only about 150 to 175 million people working in the country right now. So, in the sense of, like jobs. So, that being said, that's affecting a lot of people. It's affecting a lot of working people. I think you're right. I mean, a lot of people, no one can really defend this. And when you
Yeah,
have people, and the word on the street was that, and this was from, um, what is it? Anthony Scaramucci. Word on the street is that Scott Bessent was about to quit, and
really.
that
Wow.
yes, and that that was something that the administration did not want to have happen. Now,
Did you get I was really tired of watching him defend Trump, and he just seemed like
that's Lutnick. You're thinking of Lutnick. Lutnick
no,
is
I'm
the
talking
one
about
talking.
Bassett. I'm talking about I'm talking about Bassett watching him on TV, and it was
I
obvious that
didn't.
he didn't know how to defend him, Trump, but he was still
Oh,
defending Trump. And it was just so obvious he didn't have an actual proper defense. So he just sounded stupid. And I know that man is intelligent. He's an intelligent man. But to watch him bow down and no, he had no real defense. It was just ridiculous.
so
But
let's
he had to
talk about.
pretend.
So did you listen to podcasts this week? You said you listened to another pod. So I played from my favorite podcast, but you listened to a podcast this week too. Were they talking about this on your podcast? Which was the podcast
No,
that you listened to?
no, it's a very different type of podcast.
What is it?
Well, this podcast and it's
Since we're
been
going to be talking about this interspersed throughout our conversation, we can go back and forth. We don't always just have to,
well,
stay in the same thing. So yeah, tell the audience. They come to listen. What was the podcast that you did listen
so
to?
I've been listening to a podcast now and then, and now I find myself to be more engaged with it, and it's called The Magnificent Others with Billy Corgan.
Okay.
Now, those of you that don't know who Billy Corgan is, he is the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins, which they were big back in the '90s. Yeah, the '90s, right? It
I think
was
yep,
around that time.
yep. Or early 2000s, I think too, right?
Hmm.
Right?
Maybe you're right.
I thought it
It's
was
all
like
just one
late
big
90s, early
time
2000s.
flies.
Anyway, go on, go on, go on.
So he interviews. Now, at first, I was not interested because it's all about interviewing celebrities, right? And I didn't
Oh,
want to listen to another one of those.
yep.
But the way that he interviews them, first of all, he doesn't, pick the expected, celebrities, right? He picks
Uh-huh.
people that have interesting backstories where they went through some shit, right? They had a difficult process in their life of becoming a star becoming a famous singer or becoming a famous actor, becoming a well-known well-established singer or actor. And so he's not just interviewing big stars. He's interviewing people that have a really interesting backstory which the audience can connect to and kind of use in their own life, the use the lessons that were learned in their own personal life. That's why I liked it. um,
Like, for
and
example, give me an example. Who?
well, okay. So, um, and this is kind of weird, but I'm slightly obsessed with.
Here
You're
we
not gonna be
go.
surprised.
Here we go. Okay. I
Are
wish I had a drum roll. I need to have, like, the sound effects of a drum roll whenever he starts this. Next time I will do that, audience. Okay, go on.
Well, okay. So he's interviewed people like Richie Sambora, Pat Benatar, um, and my favorite. I'm slightly obsessed with Corey Feldman. It's
What?
such, he's just such a odd creature that I'm so fascinated by him. Just like my favorite actor is Rob Schneider.
Who is that?
You don't know who Rob Schneider is?
No.
American Gigolo? Oh, sorry, I mean it's called Deuce Bigelow, American Gigolo, or the Deuce Bigelow movies. You know Deuce Bigelow, the hot
No.
chick, the movie The Hot Chick. Oh man, Robbie, where are you? You got
Clearly, I'm
you
not
got
here. I'm
you,
sorry.
you got to watch The Hot Chick. Oh, such a good movie.
Okay. I don't know who Rob Schneider is, but I'm sure our audience does.
He's in all the Adam Sandler movies. He's one of the sidekicks. He's one of that
Oh,
crew.
okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
So funny. You'll know him when you see him. Okay.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna start sending you links. But anyways, I digress. So he interviewed Corey Feldman, and it's interesting to kind of not only listen to, you kind of understand that it's not that he's just a complete oddball screw up that thinks very
Wait,
highly of
hold on a
herself.
second. Hold on a second. I just want to do this. Okay.
Corey Feldman.
Woo! Okay, go
Yeah,
on.
I like that. We should keep that.
Yes, we're gonna keep that. We're gonna keep that one. Okay, go on. I can't believe Corey Feldman and Rob's Corey Feldman?
It's he's just so fascinating.
What?
I can't stop
How is
watching him.
Corey really fascinating?
He's so
First of all,
fascinating.
I have a question. Is he alive? I feel like he died a few times and came back to
No,
life from drug
his
overdoses and
no,
stuff.
his friends died. His friends died. Like River Phoenix and Corey Haim died from drug overdose, but
But
he's
he
still
was doing
alive.
drugs with them too, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he survived.
So he's
He
kinda like
thinks,
Bobby Brown.
yeah, yeah. Except a little more delusional. A little more delusional.
A little more delusional than
I
Bobby
mean, this guy
Brown,
thinks
okay.
he's so good. He thinks and he thinks he's like a superstar singer. He thinks he's very talented. It's hilarious. So I'm captivated by this absurdity. Just to like kind of understand his mind, you know. And
Audience,
he
I could
also
go so many places with that last statement, but I'm not going to.
okay, no,
Go
you no.
Go on, finish your story. Okay, so he was talking okay, so he had an interview with Corey Feldman?
Yeah, and so but along with, the absurdity, and by the way,
Excuse
he
me.
models himself after Michael Jackson. So if you watch any of his performances,
I've seen
it's
that.
so ridiculous. Um but it's so good. It's so ridiculous. It's so good. So, along that, but you do hear some of his real life issues, and and they kind of go deep into it, and it's the way that he conducts the interviews with with any of his guests, the way Billy handles it, it's unique and it's interesting. He keeps things real, and he keeps the conversation. He keeps it going in a way that's of use to his listeners. So I
Okay.
like it. I recommend it. And
That's
I started listening to it
uh-huh.
a while back, like here and there, just very rarely. But then I just found myself listening to it more and more to the point where I thought this is something worth talking about
Mhm.
on a podcast.
Okay. I mean, I think that that's interesting to know. I'll check it out. And what is it called again? Remind us and me.
It's called The Magnificent Others with Billy Corgan.
Okay, why can't I say magnificent?
You just said it
I know, and then I say it. The Magnificent Others by Billy Corgan. Okay, we'll definitely
with
will
Billy Corgan.
with Billy Corgan. Okay, we will, we always highlight new podcasts in, our, credits, so we'll definitely put that in there for people to link out to, when they click on the episode. So, alright, I didn't listen to anything new. Obviously, I played something from, Compound and Friends, and then you talked about Billy Corgan. Let's jump into AI, and then we can go into more current events. So, okay, I know you mentioned in our kind of briefing, you didn't have too much to talk about with regard to AI this week, but I want to talk about the fact that there is a new, well, every year Forbes comes out with the AI 50, and they came out with it this past week. And the number one, at least a featured one, was a woman run company called Writer. And it is an AI application that's very similar to an application like Jasper. It also too can kind of compete with GPT. And I have not, what I will say this is I have not double clicked on their new release. They released this new product called AI HQ. And evidently, there are people who are utilizing Writer and they're finding that it's saving their organizations tens of millions of dollars. Now, I really want to double click on that. I hate when people say that, but I like saying it, so I say it. Um, and see what that really means. I have some friends that do work at Writer. I'll say that in full transparency, but I haven't gone into the company. I think it's interesting though that a Lebanese woman's company is the number 1 on the AI 50 this year.
So high level,
Yes.
why do you think it's up there? What do you think is different about it?
What I've at least at a very base level, what I understand is just how they protect companies' data, the way they're integrate from an enterprise
Mm,
level, and allow coworkers to utilize it, as a tool. I wouldn't say similar to GPT, but I need to double click in on it and figure out like how they're using it. I want to read more about it. You can. It's called Writer. It's an easy tool to look up, but it's definitely getting a lot more
okay.
solidification. And then there's all of the other ones that we know. Anthropic, OpenAI, Perplexity AI, those are search engine Glean. And then there's some new ones that are out there that I haven't heard, but I feel like, these lists change. This is I think the second or third time though that Writer's been on this AI 50 list. So I think that that's pretty good to keep in mind. And
Okay.
we always talk about AI. We talk about AI in terms of we try to make it simple and clear and easy for people to understand, and talk about it relevant to their daily lives. And what I will say is, if this company, and because I can't speak to the specifics on it, because as I said, I haven't done the due diligence at this point. I'll come back next week and maybe we can do some more in terms of understanding it. But if this company is making things easier for regular coworkers to use and do their day jobs internally and
hmm
utilizing AI, it is something that people should keep in mind, particularly people who work in companies, work from home, work in the office. And then also, too, there was another thing that I saw, which was a small company that helps you actually decide what doors you want in your house and how they fit and everything utilizing AI. There's a lot more AI, and people probably have seen them because these were on the market, but they're getting more streamlined and more efficient in terms of how they do these interior design applications and ways to utilize AI. Take a picture of your living room, you put it in this
hmm
app, and it gives you the design, it gives you different
Yeah,
options for you to do. And I think that that's pretty awesome. And I
it
also do
is.
think that's low hanging fruit that anyone can do and start having an understanding of AI
Yeah,
and utilizing it, right? Because everybody wants to
yeah.
redo a room or redo something. And maybe you're doing that and you're like, "Well, I don't know anything about AI," but yes, you do. So I think that that's important. But getting back to Writer, if they are doing this at a large scale, I mean, that just is like a huge TAM, total addressable market
And how do you
for
spell
them.
it? Is it
Just
spelled? Okay.
writer, like if you're writing a letter,
Okay.
writer, WRITER. I know sometimes my accent can sounds like I'm saying writer, but
No,
writer.
you know how some companies, maybe it could have been RIT or RYT.
Oh, okay, you mean like when they try to be cute with the
Yeah.
branding? Yeah, no. No, 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 not this one. So I know I actually have a bit of a hard stop, so I think we should go into the rest of the week. Um, so transitioning back to current events and everything that's happened, it has been a week in terms of not only just the tariffs, but other things. I think one thing that really stood out to me that I haven't really said too much about what I like and what I don't like, because I really am trying to keep a positive outcome, but also to be realistic about what's happening. And yeah, and the tariffs were crazy. Let's just be honest. But one thing I do think is really crazy is the fact that there was just a new. This was released, and the whole clouding of the tariffs. That Social Security now is going to start all of their communication through X. And I just
hmm
think that's actually crazy. We're talking about
hmm
older people. Some older
hmm
people don't even wanna get on a computer, and you're gonna have them only communicate through the Social Security Administration through X?
So
Like,
what
let's calm down. Let's calm
at
down.
what stage of development is this? You know,
It's supposed to roll out in 90 days. It was
and it's
just
going to be their
announced
only. You're saying
today.
it's going to be their only method of
Yes,
communication.
they're shutting down 90% of the offices.
If if that happens,
That's
I
crazy.
yeah.
That can't happen. I mean, like, I just am like, is this again, you never know. Is this a distraction? Is this just something that they're floating
Mhm.
out to see if people are going to, like it or not? But
Yeah.
I think that's so unfair for so many people for so many reasons. Again, they're just people who are of a certain age. And I know in this country, unfortunately, and this is one thing I don't like. I don't like the way we treat older people in this country.
Yeah.
Now, am I saying that there's old people in the government that need to step down? Absolutely. I am saying that, and I'm being ageist on that. So let's be clear. There are some people,
Yeah.
like when what's her name? There was Dianne Feinstein was in there. She could barely talk,
That's so
right?
ridiculous.
Like, that
So
was
ridiculous.
ridiculous. That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. And then on the other side, what's his name? Mitch McConnell, he's still in there, but he froze at the
It's
but
happened so many times.
it's like, let
He
some new
goes,
people in there and get their ideas, and so that we can show that we're constantly moving forward and growing as a country and as a government, right? Like, that's just too much. But for people who've worked their whole life, they're just living their life, just trying to get by like everybody else. There are certain organizations that need to be open and applicable to everyone. And the
mhm.
Social Security Administration, everybody knows what that is. Everybody pays into Social Security if you have a job, but 95% of you do. The idea that people who are older and in retirement need to go to X to get their communications around Social Security changes, updates, etc., and then interact that way, I just think is ludicrous. I think that's ludicrous.
Now we know for certain that there is a big disconnect between uh, the current administration's understanding of what's appropriate versus the reality of the people out there, the public, right? They really don't understand what's good for the public. That's been made clear over and over. The things they do is there is just a huge disconnect.
I agree, but I mean, what do you think about this? You haven't said you I mean, that was a vague statement.
I,
What are your I know you
I
have opinions on this.
obviously it's ridiculous, right?
Okay.
It's obviously it's absurd.
Okay.
Every I'm trying to find something. Now there are a few good things that I think they've done, but broadly speaking, they do just so many absurd things. And then, like you said, I'm wondering, is this a distraction? Are they trying to distract from the fact that they're destroying the economy as we speak through, the various actions of the tariffs and the Doge cuts and all the cascading effects? Are they trying to look for distractions so we can go complain about something else and kind of take our minds off what they're doing to the economy?
I don't know. I mean, I just think it's that's the thing. Are they? Are they not? We don't know. We do know. Is it this? Is it that? Um,
I mean, it's it's
and
it's
I
it's
and
shocking that they would consider doing that. You know,
yeah.
but you know, the fact that you're talking about seniors and
Yes.
you're considering a communication method where you know that the very audience doesn't use that technology.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
absurd, right?
That's absurd. That's the absurd part. Why is that even on the table? I'm not
Because
saying don't cut Social Security Administration if there's fraud, waste, and abuse in there and there are people that
right.
are not doing their job. I'm not saying that. And I think that I've been pretty clear on the Doge part. Like, yes, the government does need to be more efficient. And so I'm not against that. I'm definitely not. But
Yeah.
I also too think that, yeah, I don't like the way that it's happened to people.
Mhm.
I don't like the way that people have just been blatantly fired with like nothing. And I don't particularly, and I know that it's been said out there recently that that Musk thinks that anybody who is empathetic, that is a weakness or something, that empathy is a weakness in people, which I just think is just him. Maybe he was on some ketamine or something. I don't know. But because sometimes he does have empathy. No, because sometimes he does show empathy to people. So I just, whether it's fake or not, he knows to do that. So
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
it
if
he
that's
knows
real,
how
if that's just a statement. Right,
he
that's my
doesn't
point.
actually feel it, right? But he knows how to talk it.
I don't know what the man's head is, what's in his head, and I do think that he is a genius and he has come up with some great things, but on the
Wait,
other side
who are
of
we talking
things.
about?
Huh?
Who are we talking about?
Elon Musk. He has come up with some great things. SpaceX, Starlink.
I see. Here's the thing. I I am curious why, and I'm not talking about you, but I'm curious about why he has supposedly become he's being treated like a prophet, and I'm not
Okay,
understanding
well,
why.
I do
Yeah,
not get
yeah,
down like that
yeah.
because of particularly because of my beliefs, so he is not a prophet in my mind. Let me be
Well, I'm not
clear on
talking about
that.
you. I'm not talking about you. I'm
Okay.
just making I'm not saying an actual prophet, but I mean, he's being treated beyond what he is. He's a, he's a intelligent man that is good at building businesses. But everyone's treating it, not everyone, a lot of people are treating him like he is the all-knowing source and knows everything and can fix everything and anything. He
Yeah,
knows
they're
nothing about government, and
yeah,
he has
yeah.
it's absurd that people are treating him like he can fix it. Why would he know anything about how to fix a government? He knows nothing about it. So he's
Well, here's the
intelligent,
thing,
but
here's
in
the
his
other side,
certain
though.
stay in your lane, you know what I'm saying?
So here's the devil's I'm gonna,
Yeah.
other side, 'cause, I do like to understand the other side. Other side is this, other side is that. What has worked in the past? Nothing for a long time. We do have a lot of waste. There is a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that was happening that should have been, pulled out. There was a lot of things that maybe shouldn't be efficient. Yes, it's horrible that people lost their jobs, and I think we both know people who've been impacted. But when you work in the private sector, that part happens. The issue is, to your point, the private sector and the public sector are different, and I think people are starting to realize that. But I
I
also
hope
do
so.
think that people wanted a shakeup. People wanted something to change. People wanted somebody who was just going to go in there because things have just not been working and just say, shake this up and let's do something.
Yeah.
Like
Right,
that
right,
was just
right.
there was a big whole thing of like, we got to do
Yeah.
something, right? And nobody's
Yeah.
doing anything. So I think that that's also too a reason why people voted for Donald Trump. But I don't think people voted for a lot of shit that's going on right now. I don't think people voted for all this chaos. I don't think people voted for they're losing all this money in their stock, in their 401ks. I don't think
Mhm.
people want to pay, even though now he went down to 10% for reciprocal tariffs. I don't think people want to pay 10% more for things.
I
You know?
everyone
I
yeah.
don't think
I
so.
mean,
I also think that, so that's probably why you said your friends are quiet, and I wanna say this too, you said GOP. I don't think that everybody who's, like, going hardcore, hard in the paint on all of this stuff and still not
hard in the
questioning it
paint.
are GOP people. I cannot believe that there are 100% of Republicans that believe this. Now, there might be people who are and I will say this, hardcore MAGA, right? And that's fine. That's who you are. But there's also people who are not. Now, I think that a lot of people don't they wanted change, but they didn't want, like, let's come back some, because people want to be able to live their lives. They still want the safety and the protection of what living in America means. And a lot
Yeah.
of that is getting restructured as we talk, and it's going to affect our brand as a country. And I
Mhm.
think that's the thing that is the most concerning to me is the American brand. The fact that
Yeah.
America is the best place to be. America is the best country. It has a lot of fucked up things and things that have gone wrong in terms of how they've treated people and done things in the past, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a place where people can come, build a business, grow a life, and there's not a lot of places in the world that you could do that without
Mhm.
grift, having to pay off somebody, without, one day you're in somebody's good graces and the next day everything's gone because it gets cut off by the government. Nobody wants to People don't want to live in an America like that.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think that that's and I'm hoping that we don't get there. My positive mentality is that that's not where we're going to go. But if we keep doing these things, people are going to start building things without us. And we are so
Yeah.
interconnected. And this is one of the things too that my boys on Compound and Friends were talking about. This was animal spirits. But um they were it's one thing to do all the tariffs and yeah, maybe this 10% will work, but we're not in the 1890s. We're not in the 1920s.
Exactly.
This is
You can't apply the same
2025.
principles.
And as much as we may not like it, we're all globally intertwined. When
Yes.
Facebook says that they have 2 billion users on Instagram and Facebook, that's not just America. That's the world. That's the world because we are intertwined in so many different areas and ways, and because of that, it's like when you're at school. You may not necessarily like somebody or work. You may not necessarily like somebody, but you gotta play nice sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing. We gotta play nice sometimes. We can't always be so freaking mean.
And
And
this is
I'm not saying no, don't be strong. I'm not saying don't like there's certain things you gotta hold the line on. Okay, so
yeah.
let's be clear. But you can't be, and Rogan said this too. You cannot disappear somebody who's a legal citizen who is
Hmm.
in the country and it's clear that you made a mistake. They came out, uh-oh, it says my internet is unstable. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
The administration came out and said they made a mistake about that man that's in the El Salvadorian
Yeah.
prison. They said it was an error.
Sikat.
Bring his ass back. If it's a mistake, bring it back. Bring him back. He's not a
Yeah.
criminal. He's not a gangster. Nobody's saying that we don't want the gangsters in there. But this is a man who was with his autistic son who was pulled out in the freaking um Home Depot
Yeah.
parking lot or whatever.
Now,
That's
here's the thing.
crazy.
Maybe we can't say for certain that he was not a former gang member, right? But we can say is
Yes,
that
we
our
can.
government
Yes,
has
yes,
no proof that he was.
yes. Okay, we can go down the due process route, which the Supreme Court says you can't just do that without
Right,
giving
right.
anybody due
He
process,
should
which
have
is where
been
I'm
given an
going.
opportunity in court.
But I'm not gonna go there. I'm tired of, like, going there with people, "Oh, we can't be sure he wasn't a gay." He wasn't. He was not, and I think that we need to stop just assuming somebody is Latino and because they have tattoos that they're a
It
gang member.
it
That looks
everyone
like
should
a
have their day in
gay.
court, and the government needs to prove that they are a criminal before sending them off. They
Yes.
should not be just pulled off and shipped over without any process.
Yes, because what it is innocent before proven
Right.
guilty, which
Uh,
means your
that's
statement
the
is
that's one of
that
the cornerstones of
he
our
could be
country,
he's
right?
not guilty. He's not we don't know, and
Right.
I'm saying that it's clear but it's been proven. They've even said, though, that they made a mistake with him. So they're admitting
Yeah.
that he is not a gang member. So the idea that you're
Well,
saying
they're
that
they're admitting that they don't have proof on it.
no, they're admitting they made a mistake.
Yes, they did make a mistake.
So he should not be so I'm not gonna go there. I just can't. I just can't. I think that we need to start this whole, like, not giving people the benefit of the doubt thing.
Yeah.
When it's clear they made a mistake, like, where is the line?
Yeah.
Like, come on, Steven, come on.
And you
Like,
think
no,
about
no,
all
Steven,
the
I
other
wanna go
people
back
that
here. I wanna go back here to this thing about we don't know if he wasn't a gang member. Yes, we do. He was not a gang member. He was a
what
citizen here with his how many people have tattoos now? Everybody has
you
a
think
tattoo.
and
I don't have a tattoo, but there's everybody has tattoos. You can't you can't look at somebody's tattoo and say, "Oh," unless you, like, are a deep criminologist and understand all of the intricacies of every single gang, affiliation in the entire country, which these people who are pulling people off the street do not. I think
now
that's clear. You
think
can't
about
say that. He's not a gang member. I'm not going there. I'm tired of us doing that to people when it's clear that it was wrong. He shouldn't be in the jail. Like,
think
come
about
on.
now this is the one situation where we caught them making an error, right? Think about how many other errors they've made which we haven't caught. So this they had to, they
That's
had
a
to
whole
admit,
other
"Oh, we made a
conversation I
mistake."
can't get
Now
into.
think about how many other mistakes they've made, right? Because these people were not given the opportunity in court. There, imagine how many people are just sitting out there incorrectly in
I just
apparently the worst prison in in the world?
I don't know if it's in the world, but I think it's definitely on the western sea or western hemisphere. The other thing I was just gonna say is that man wasn't a gang member. I'm just he was not. He was not a gang member. He was not a gang member. And so the idea that we just say, well, we don't know if he was. No, he wasn't. They say he wasn't. They say they messed up. Bring him back home. Like and this is not about this is more about us remembering where we are and who we are as a country, right? We always say as Americans that
Yeah,
we don't do that to other people.
right.
and that we don't do that to
If
our own.
if they
He
had an
is
issue
our
with him, they
own.
should have arrested him, brought him to court, and proved that
But they didn't do that, and that's
exactly,
the point. They did not do
exactly.
that because he's not. And so you can't just pick people my point is this, you can't just pick people off the street because they look a certain way and send them down to an El
Yeah,
Salvadorian prison without any proof. Now, some of these people are MI6, gang members, killed people, rapists, all of that. Okay, well then they said that they were gonna get those people. They said that they were gonna get them. That's where they are. So,
yeah.
I'm not
Which is
talking
great,
about those
which is great,
people.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about,
right,
like, this man and some other people.
yeah,
And it's pretty clear that this is not what who we wanna be. And there are people who voted for Trump who say this too. So I don't
yeah,
I think that, there needs to be a little bit of some pulling back here. We want this country to be better,
yeah.
right?
So I was talking to, I was chatting with a couple of my buddies who are immigrants from India. They moved about 20 years ago, and they both voted for Trump. And it was really good hearing their perspective because if you listen to their perspective, just what you were talking about earlier, people there's a lot of people that voted for Trump, not because they like Trump, they hate Trump, but they wanted change because they felt Democrats were going too far left.
Yeah.
And for example, these guys, they're saying, listen, we worked our asses off to get here the right way. We got in the country legally the right way. We worked at gas stations while taking courses at school, while doing our education. We worked really hard to climb that ladder because we had the motivation, the desire, the dedication. We did it the right way and we got to this point of success because we deserve it. And then we saw all these, we saw these Democrats just letting the Democratic administration just letting all these people just come in for free without any kind of requirement, without any qualifications, just coming in illegally, and then they get legal status. That's not fair, and that's not right, and that's not the kind of people we want coming into the country. And I said, "You're right." And they said, "We don't like Trump. We think he's an idiot, but we needed an alternative to what was happening with the Democrats."
I can't argue with you on that except for the fact I think that there's some okay, so I get what they're saying. I get what they're saying. I mean, I think that that's why a lot of people voted for Trump.
Yeah,
But what I
yeah.
will say is this. What I will say is this. They might not have their citizenship anymore because he's like, do they have green cards?
Who?
Your friends.
Oh, they're citizens now. Yeah, they're citizens.
But they could get pulled over. They could get pulled because they're looking at people who are Indian. Are you a citizen? Do you have a green card? Let me see your social media when you come back into the country. What kind of crap is that?
Yeah.
That's bull crap. I'm a
Some of
citizen.
my friends
I'm
are concerned, they're canceling their international trips because they're concerned about what's gonna happen. Could
if
I
they try to
run into
come
some
back into
trouble
the
when I come
country.
back? Yeah,
Exactly, and this is what I'm saying. People should not be feeling like this if they're particularly if they're citizens, particularly if they've done the
yeah,
things
yeah,
that are right.
yeah,
Like, this is where it's getting too much. It's
yeah.
too much, and what I will say too, and I'm sure there's gonna be some people who don't agree with me, but I really don't care because this is something too that I'm gonna say. You were talking about your friends who are Indian American. This whole thing about and I know it's a distraction, but it's still wrong going after all of the Smithsonian institutions and particularly going after the African
Mhm.
American History Museum
Yeah,
and saying that everything that has that talks about slavery needs to be removed is
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
It's a
What
museum,
what eh,
it's the history. There was slavery here. There was slavery all over the world at the time. It was the economic engine that was running the world. It was horrible here. It was horrible for people who were enslaved. That's true.
it's
That's
true and it's
true.
horrible and it needs to be accepted and
And
we
we the
cannot
I
delete it. We
yes,
cannot delete it.
we can't delete it. We can't delete it. We can move forward. We can be on a forward path, which
Yeah,
we all have tried to do, but you can't remove it because you don't like it,
mhm,
because it's history.
yeah.
It's history.
It's
And
factual.
yes,
And that's
and I
but,
will say this.
our current administration has a problem in dealing with factual, like
Yes.
They don't
Yes.
want to deal with
They tr
facts.
yes.
They struggle with facts. They
Yes.
don't want to accept facts.
They
They
don't.
think it's okay to
Sometimes.
omit facts and just kind of dabble
Sometimes.
into the unreal.
Sometimes. Not always. There are some things that, like I
Often,
said, he was right
often.
about. Like, I ride hard for Trump on the straws. I
Stop.
do. I do. He was right. I hate it. There's still some fucking paper straws out there. I'm calling the White House. Can you get this shit out of here? I can't stand it. I'm not I went someplace, they had paper straws. I was
Stop.
like, "What is this? Did you not get the memo?" Um, yeah, so I do. I ride hard with Trump on the straws. Um,
I'm sure you're gonna find paper straws in California. The illegal paper
yeah,
straws.
the illegal well, they need to, you know, get it together. And I get all of the reasons why we don't want to have plastic straws, but I'm just saying I cannot with the paper straws. They're horrible. Use the bamboo ones if you're in California. There's
Yeah,
other straws that you can use that don't taste like paper when
yeah.
you're drinking something. But
Yeah, it
yes,
costs money. Yeah.
yes, I ride hard with him on the paper straws. Um, so, so there are some things that are true. So I'm not going to go there and say everything that they do, blah, blah, blah. And that's the problem. We're in these spheres where it's everything and this and that. If you don't believe my side, then you're this. And, we disagree on so many things, but yet we still are able to have open conversations. And we got to get back to that. We got to get back to that. Or I don't know what's going to happen with this country. Needless to say, it's been a week, people. Um, there's a lot out there, um, and I don't know. We're just riding hard. We will continue to have these conversations, sporadically. We're not going to do this every week, as we've shown, and will continue to show. But
I still think we should
sometimes we
change
have
our
the conversation.
podcast name to Hard in the Paint. I really
No,
think.
we're not going to do that.
Okay.
Okay, so it's time for us to go because, as I said, I got a hard stop.
Yes.
And I'm sure you have things to do too while we're taping. But thank you so much, everyone. Oh, I hope you can hear me. It says streaming issues.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much for this week. This is a good conversation, Stephen.
This was this was this was a good conversation.
All right. Well, everyone, again, please follow, listen. We love our audience. Continue to listen to us, and we will talk to you next week, Stephen. You want to say bye to the
Thank you, my friends, for joining us for another eye-opening, entertaining discussion. We love to hear your feedback. Just like Robbie said, come talk to us. It is I, Stephen, with a PH Kennedy, board certified atheist at your service. Let's chat.
All right. Bye.